Hello everybody, thank you for joining us wherever you are in the world, and welcome to our BSI webinar, EN 18286, your guide to the next major AI quality standard. My name is Andy Gaskell. I'm the Global Marketing Lead for Artificial Intelligence at BSI, and it is an absolute delight to host this webinar alongside my colleagues. Next slide, please. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. The webinar will cover a number of things, including the new EN 18286 standards, which is due out imminently, and what this means for the AI world. We'll be talking about relationships between that and 42001 and the EU Act, and also the benefits of a kind of structured approach to AI quality management. There will be a question and answer session at the end of the webinar, so please get your questions in for our panelists. You should see on your GoToWebinar browser a box with questions on it, and please feel free to ask any questions at any point during it, and we will get through as many questions as we can at the end. We won't be stopping for questions during the presentations, but we will try and make sure we give a decent amount of time at the end to get through all of the questions. You will also get a copy of all of the slides and a recording of the webinar afterwards. This is typically sent between 24 to 48 hours after the webinar concludes, so feel free to take as many notes as you want or screenshots, but just be aware that you'll get the recording and you'll get the slides as well. I also want to make you aware that if you want to talk to any of the BSI team about what you've heard in the webinar, such as kind of the 18286 standard or 42001, there's also an opportunity to ask for a follow-up from BSI on the feedback form, which comes immediately afterwards. And we'll also just be asking your views on what you thought of the webinar, kind of topics you'd like to see BSI cover in the AI sphere in the future. And your feedback is really valuable. It just kind of helps us produce webinars which our listeners want to hear. So yeah, please fill that out afterwards. We'll really appreciate it. I'm sure you've seen a big QR code on the right-hand side of the screen. We also produce a series of AI resources, such as details about 42001, details about the EU Act, and they're all available by scanning that QR code or using the browser link listed. So feel free to scan it, feel free to take note of the link, and those are your resources to use, and we hope you find them valuable. Next slide, please. So for our webinar, I'm absolutely delighted to welcome three expert speakers, which have been heavily involved in the E18286 standard and work across the BSI AI sphere. So we have Hamid, Merima, and Andrea. They will all be delivering various parts of the presentation, and will all be part of the Q&A panel at the end. So just a little bit of detail on who each of them are. I won't go into too much detail on them, but I've been really delighted to have them with us and thank them for their time to join us today. Next slide, please. So just before I hand over to our speakers, I'll just give a little bit of information about who BSI are. I'm sure most people who are on the call know who we are, but we can't take it for granted. So BSI are a Royal Charter organisation, and our objectives are to simplify, standardise and improve business performance. We are heavily invested in the AI sphere with standards, testing, training and certification. And across our business, we operate kind of nearly all the way across the world, doing many audit days all throughout the world. So I'll just move on to the next slide, please. And as mentioned beforehand, within the AI sphere, our goal is for the responsible adoption of AI for the benefit of society. And to achieve that, we offer standards, we offer training, and we offer testing and certification within AI for companies which are using AI within their decision-making processes, and also for companies that develop AI as well. Just before I pass over to the other guys, we just want to find out a little bit more about our audience. So we've got two poll questions. The first one is we're just kind of keen to understand how is your organisation involved with AI systems. And I'll just give kind of 10 seconds to submit an answer to the poll. Okay, 5 seconds. Okay. So we've got a wide mix across it, with 40% saying that they are deploying or providing AI systems, which fits really well with the EN 18286 standard. So we think you found the right webinar, and delighted that you joined us. We've also got people that deploy AI. No one said that they import or distribute AI. A couple that advise or assess AI organizations, and a few that are still exploring AI as well. So thank you. It's just really useful to get an understanding as to who joins us. And the second one, we'll cover a bit about the EU AI Act as part of the webinar and how EN 18286 fits with it. And we just want to understand how are you guys getting on with the EU Act? Is it something that you're actively preparing for, or are you in kind of early stages? And again, I'll just give this 10 seconds. Okay, a couple of seconds left, please. Okay, thank you for everybody who's put a vote in. So nearly half have said that they are actively preparing, which is good news. Around 1/5 are in the early stages, a little bit less aware but not started, and a few not sure as to whether it applies to them. So thanks everybody for kind of sharing where you're on the journey. It just helps us to understand a little bit more about our audience. So without further ado, I will pass across to Hamid, who will kick off our presentation as a whole. Please, if you have any questions for our speakers as you're going through, anything you want clarification on, please just submit a question in the Q&A box, and we will get through as many as we can at the end. But that's all from me. I'll pass over to Hamid, and thanks everybody for joining.
Thank you, Andrew. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone joining us from around the world. So my name is Hamid Naderi, and I'm going to present you the first part of this webinar. To get us started, let's look straight at our agenda today and the topics we'll be covering today. So first, we'll review the AI Act timelines and pin down some of the EU AI Act requirement for high-risk AI systems. Second, we map expectations in Article 17 of AI Act to EN 18286 and see what exactly is EN 18286, and then dive to this new quality management framework, scope and structure, and have a look at current standard ecosystem. And finally, we'll provide immediate practical next steps for you to execute right after this session. And we will also review on how BSI services can guide you along this path. And so without saying more, let's go to the current status of AI Act. So here you see the current status of AI Act. The journey began in the summer 2024, when the Act was officially published on July 12th and entered into force on August 1st. The first major enforcement milestone arrived on February 2nd, 2025, officially banning prohibited AI systems that pose unacceptable risks, such as social scoring or manipulative practices. Most recently, on August 2nd, 2025, strict obligations for general purpose AI models came into effect, introducing new rules for governance, compliance, and non-compliance penalties. Moving right into the near future, on the 2nd of August 2026, the transparency obligations under Article 50 will begin to apply. These rules require AI systems to clearly disclose when users are interacting with AI or when content has been generated or manipulated by AI, which will significantly improve the transparency and trust. Moving on, as many of you know, there has been a great deal of discussion surrounding the original timeline for the EU AI Act. However, following the recent adoption of the AI Digital Omnibus, we now have a clear roadmap. Under these update, December 2nd, 2027 would be the enforcement deadline for standalone Annex 3 high-risk AI systems, and obligations must bring these, organizations must bring these specific systems into full compliance. And finally, on August 2nd, 2028, the last phase takes effect. This applies to AI-enabled products covered under Annex 1, particularly products that require assessment under existing EU product safety legislations, ensuring that AI components also meet the required safety and compliance standards. Okay, yep. And what exactly, sorry. Let me go to the previous. Yep. So what exactly are high-risk AI systems? Under Article 6 of Annex, under Article 6, AI high-risk AI systems are identified. So basically, these are two different classes of high-risk AI systems. The first one would be the ones under Annex 3, like biometrics, education, and credit scoring AI systems. And it is important to note that these systems are not covered by existing product safety laws. For example, AI systems that play a crucial role in the management and prioritization of emergency calls are classified as high-risk AI system under Annex 3. Also, the second category would be AI system covered under Annex 1, AI embedded into regulated products like medical devices, cars, aviation, and toys. So AI system is classified as high risk if it meets two criteria here. First, it is either a product itself or used as safety component in a product covered by EU harmonization legislation, EU harmonization laws, such as MDR that covers medical devices. And second, the product or AI system must require mandatory third-party conformity assessment before it can be placed on the market. And once the system is classified as high risk, Article 16 makes it very clear that providers now have a number of obligations. For example, they must maintain technical documentation to go through conformity assessment procedure, issue the EU Declaration of Conformity, and also apply CE marking where applicable. So it is the important shift here. First, the system is identified as high risk, and then provider moves into a much more structured set of responsibilities. It should be also noted that high-risk AI systems must comply with a strict set of core requirements outlined in Articles 8 through 15. These including robust risk management, ensuring rigorous data governance, and implementing effective human oversight. And then now let's have a look at conformity assessment for Annex 1 AI systems. And we have Article 17 here, which really is one of the central governance requirements in the AI Act. The EU AI Act requires provider of high-risk AI system to operate a documented QMS. This is not a limited requirement. It is broad in scope and touches many parts of the organization. It covers areas such as AI development governance, quality control and assurance, and testing and validation, also including risk management, data governance, and technical documentation specification. Then beyond development, it extends to post-market monitoring, serious incident reporting, and communication with authorities. So the message here is that Article 17 is not asking only for technical excellence. It is asking for a managed system around AI, the one that is documented, controlled, and monitored, and continuously maintained. And So basically, this would be the main focus of this webinar, and we'll see how EN 18286 will carry a presumption of conformity, meaning that if you follow that, the regulators will presume that you are in compliance with Article 17. Also, according to Article 11 of the AI Act, technical documentation of high-risk AI system must be prepared before the system is placed on the market or put into service, and must be kept up to date throughout its life cycle. Annex 4 also of the AI Act specifies the required content of this technical documentation, like, for example, a description of AI system, architecture, data requirement, risk management measures, and the relevant performance information. Organization already certified under MDR and IVDR are familiar with this approach. Also, when reviewing technical documentation, the notified body can request additional evidence or testing from the provider. If they find provider's test insufficient, the notified body will conduct appropriate testing directly. I'm happy to share that BSI services cover all elements of this conformity assessment path, and we will briefly review the services at the end of this webinar. By saying that, we can go to the next poll. And how familiar are you with EN 18286? Very familiar. We are already preparing, somewhat familiar with its purposes. I had heard of it and not aware before today. Let's wait for 10 more seconds. Thank you very much. And by saying that, we can go to the EN 18286 itself, and I would like to hand over to Andrea, my colleague, for the next part of the webinar. Andrea,
thank you, Hamid, and welcome everyone. My task for the next few minutes is to try and answer the question, what is EN 18286 and why does it matter to anyone working with AI under the EU AI Act? So we'll look at where the standard comes from, what makes it different from the management system standards that we already know, and above all, how it complements ISO IEC 42001 rather than competing with it. So I guess we can start with the basics. As you can see, EN 18286 is developed by Senelec, Joint Technical Committee 21, Working Group 2, under a standardization request from the European Commission. And I think the single most important point and word in this slide is mandate. So the standard was not born from industry consensus looking for a market, but it was commissioned specifically to give providers a way to meet Article 17 of the AI Act. And I think this origin explains everything that is a bit unusual about these standards in terms of its definition of quality, its product realization clauses, its incident reporting requirements. And so it's regulation born, and it reads like it. And its center of gravity is the provider of high-risk AI system, because that is exactly who Article 17 targets and obligates. Regarding the status of the standard, so the text has reached formal vote. So the technical content is substantially mature, and publication is expected anytime soon. We need to keep two milestones distinct. So publication makes the standard available to implement. Citation in the official journal of the European Union is a separate commission process, and only citation triggers presumption of conformity. So until then, you can implement the standard, but you cannot claim the harmonized standard status. So, the Commission has mandated a brand new QMS standard, and the obvious question at this point is why? So, don't we already have quality management system standards? So, go back to one slide. So let's take a look. So Article 17 doesn't just say you need to have a quality management system standard. So it lists the element that the system must contain. So we've got compliance strategy, including the conformity assessment route. We've got design, verification, and validation for each AI system. Data management, PMS under Article 72, serious incident reporting under Article 73, and communication with authorities and notified bodies. Now, if we hold that list against the standards that we already have, let's see what happens. So 9001 gives us, generic product realization, but nothing on compliance strategy, PMS, or incident reporting. And of course, it wasn't designed for that. Clearly, ISO 42001 comes a bit closer, so it addresses AI governance, and the Annex A controls do offer some data controls, but those controls, as some of you may know, are selectable through the SOA, the Statement of Applicability. And we see in this table that Article 17 has some elements that simply have no counterpart. And this is exactly the gap that EN 18286 fills. And I think it's important to notice how it fills it. So not by replacing what already exists, but by complementing it. So in a way, 42001 keeps its role as the organizational governance framework, and 18286 adds the QMS layer, which is designed around the Article 17 obligation set. So they're built to work together. And to make these standard work together, did require a bit more than just adding a few clauses here and there. And indeed, it required adding a new dimension to the definition of quality itself. So let's see what that means. So ISO 9001 says that quality is the degree to which inherent characteristics fulfill requirements. And as we know, those requirements come from customers and interested parties. And this is the perspective, of course, of 9001, and it remains fully valid. ISO 42001 works in the same tradition and adds a new governance dimension in terms of managing AI responsibly at an organizational level. 18286 in clause 3.1.19 adds, I would say, a third dimension. So here, quality means the characteristics that fulfill regulatory requirement, and importantly, including health, safety, and human rights. So the important point here is that these definitions do not compete, but they stack one over the other. So we've got customer satisfaction, responsible governance, and regulatory conformity. And so three complementary lenses that are on the same AI system, each answering a question that the others don't ask. So 18286 does not discard the customer. It actually adds the so-called affected person to the quality equation, who is someone who may have no contract with the provider, may never use directly the AI system, yet lives within its consequences. So basically, under this lens, quality objectives, design requirements, verification, and competence are all to be read through the regulatory conformity lens as well. So in a way, 18286 completes the picture of quality. And the next question to ask is, what are the boundaries of 18286? So this standard applies to providers, primarily providers of high-risk AI system. And we need to be precise on the fact that 18286 is not itself a quality management system. It specifies the requirements that a provider's QMS has to meet. So the QMS is yours, and the standards defines what the system must achieve and what evidence it must produce. So with that clear in mind, we have that the scope of the QMS is not simply the organization, though. So the standard requires the scope to be anchored to a defined set of AI systems and the boundaries that are drawn around them. And this is a real difference from the organizational standards like 42001, And this is exactly where these two standards complement each other. So we've got one governing the organization, 42001, and the other providing assurance to the AI systems in scope. And for every system in scope, the QMS needs to cover the entire life cycle. So we go from inception through development, operation, and monitoring up to the retirement of the system. And the implementation is to be proportionate to the provider's size and the risk that are involved. So a practical consequence of this is some elements in the standard are actually shared across different systems in terms of governance, policies, competence, and document control. But of course, the evidence of conformity needs to remain traceable to each individual system in terms of its requirement, its verification record, its technical documentation, the monitoring data. So we've got a common structure, but per system evidence. So this is, in a nutshell, the set of requirements, but we also need to be clear on what the system is, on what the standard is not covering. So first of all, 18286 does not replace a sector QMS. That means that in regulated sectors, such as medical devices, its requirements are designed to be integrated into the already existing sector system, and so they do not create a second parallel system. Second, it is not a product conformity assessment procedure. So it does define the management system whose evidence feeds into the conformity assessment, but the assessment route is still a different discussion and remains separate. And third, it is not a risk management system. And by this, I mean that the standard does not provide a risk management framework. It does provide the requirement for risk management to exist, to be maintained, and to stay connected to the QMS throughout the life cycle. But the framework itself comes from a different applicable risk management standard, and I'll come back to this very shortly. So we already notice a pattern here across these three points. So 18286 sets requirements that integrate already existing disciplines, and it does not displace or replace them. And within these boundaries, the requirements of 18286 work at three different levels at once. So we've got the organizational levels with leadership, roles, competence, documented information. Then we've got the management system level, where the provider's QMS becomes the auditable object itself and the source for evidence for the auditors, the notified bodies, the authorities. And then when we go at the AI system level, we go much deeper and much more concrete with per system requirements, verification and validation records, the technical file, PMS, and incidents. And so these three different layers, are not just did not just happen, but they are reflecting a deliberate architecture, which is made of two layers, which you can see in this slide. So the outer layer, the green one, I guess is familiar territory to some of you. So clauses from 4 to 7 and clause 10 give you basically the organizational management system in terms of leadership, planning, support, performance evaluation, and improvement. And clearly, you may say that its nearest relative is 42001 indeed. And any one of you with a mature management system will recognize most of these elements. The inner layer, so the blue one made by clauses 8 and 9, is where the standard changes character a little bit. So here we move into product realization and lifecycle control in terms of risk, design, verification and validation, data, technical documentation, PMS, and incidents. In this case, it's sort of the nearest pattern is not for 2001, but for example, 13485, so for medical devices, and in general, the new legislative framework product law. And you may ask why this hybrid? So the reason is because the AI Act on which 18286 is based is a product legislation. So it regulates AI systems that are placed on the market and not just the maturity of the organization that is behind such system. So an organizational management system can show that certain processes exists, but it cannot by itself show that a specific system was properly specified, tested, documented, and monitored. So a pure organizational management system cannot carry, Article 17 on its own. And so this architecture is what makes, 18286 and 42001 complementary. 42001 already delivers sort of the outer layer, and so the implementation effort for 18286 is concentrating in the inner layer, which brings me to I think a very awaited comparison between 42001 and 18286. Clearly, both standards sit in the management system family, but they ask, rather different assurance questions, if you will. So on the one hand, we've got 42001 asking, does the organization govern its development and use of AI responsibly? And in this case, the object of assurance is the organization and its management system. On the other hand, 18286 sharpens and narrows the lens a little bit. So asking, does the provider's QMS ensure that each AI system complies with the AI Act throughout its life cycle? So the object of assurance in this case is the regulatory conformity of the AI system in scope of the standard. So we've got different objects, different criteria, and a different beneficiary. So on the one hand, 42001 gives confidence in the organization as a whole. 18286 gives confidence to regulators, notified bodies, and the affected persons that we mentioned, that each AI system is managed for compliance. And notice that neither can answer each other's questions. And again, we can see them as two halves of the same picture, and not as rivals. Which brings me to a natural question, which is how much of my potential 42001 management system can I actually use or reuse? And it turns out it's quite a bit. So the overlap is, I'd say, strongest in the management chassis. So we've got scope and interested parties, documented information, management responsibility, planning, support, performance evaluation and improvement. So all of these map very well with 42001, and a mature AI management system can deliver this infrastructure with limited friction. So you adopt and you simply do not rebuild from scratch. There are two clarifications that are needed here. So first, in terms of scope, so both standards require one, but 42001, as you may know, anchors it in the organization in its context, whereas 18286 anchors it in the defined set of AI systems and their regulatory boundaries. So it's the same process, but in the second case, we've got a more specific object. The second observation is on performance evaluation. So, the internal audit and management review machinery can be reused, but the evidence feeding into it for 18286 must become, system specific and tied to, regulatory conformity. So, in one line, I'd say that we have strongest compatibility in terms of governance and weakest in product level controls. So, which means that the real implementation effort sits in the delta. So everything that 42001 cannot give you. So in this slide, you can see what cannot be inherited by 42001. So at the center, we've got the compliance strategy, which is clause 4.4, that requires the provider to define for each applicable regulatory requirement how it will be met and what evidence will prove it. Then the strategies flows down into per system requirements engineering in clause 8.3 in terms of regulatory obligations translated into explicit verifiable design requirements and not just policy statements. Then we've got clause 8.4, verification and validation, which becomes GATE. So plan methods, defined acceptance criteria, reproducible evidence, and formal validation before the AI system is placed onto the market. Then we've got data management in 8.5 and technical documentation with IFU instruction for use in 8.7, which are mandatory and system-specific outputs and not simply controls that can be selected via an SOA. So and then we have the regulatory interfaces that 42001 simply cannot give in these steps in terms of communication with authorities and notified bodies, PMS in clause 9.4, serious incidents reporting in 9.5. And importantly, fundamental rights in 18286 become operational. So they are built into the definition of quality, into competence, severity assessment, and verification, and not confined into an impact assessment. And I think it's important to say that none of these extra requirements is just bureaucracy, and none of it duplicates what you have in 42001. It's basically the missing hub, so the system level evidence chain that completes the organizational governance that 42001 can give you. Clearly 18286 cannot carry all the technical depth on its own, and it's actually part of an ecosystem of standards. And here is a picture that hopefully show you this ecosystem. So we've got naturally that no single standard covers every AI Act requirement in detail. But actually, the model is on purpose distributed in this way. So we've got 18286 addressing risk management under Article 9, 18284 addressing data governance under Article 10. We've got the series 18229 covering logging, transparency, human oversight, and then 18282 for cybersecurity. And as you can see also from this slide, 18286 sits at the center, and not because it replaces these technical standards, but because it provides the QMS through which the provider can identify the applicable requirements, can select the relevant standards, can assign responsibilities, generates evidence, and basically keeps the whole compliance process together and under control. So that's why I've called it the Article 17 hub. So we've got complementarity again. And in this case, the practical approach is not to run these as separate implementation projects, but building one documented compliance strategy showing which standard or internal control answers each requirement and where the evidence lies. And the importance is that 18286 is the orchestration layers, whereas the other standards provide the technical depth. So what I've said so far has assumed a high-risk provider. A natural question would be, what about everyone else? Can a non-high-risk provider use the standard at all? So let me try to give you an honest answer. So the honest answer is yes, and a bit more than that. So even outside the high-risk regime, we believe that 18286 is a very good instrument, and let's see that through some numbers and statistics. So if you run clause by clause, we see that 47% of the standard is directly accessible for any provider, as written in terms of governance, competence, VMV, monitoring and improvement. And then we've got an additional 37%, which is also usable on one condition. So the provider in this case needs to declare the relevant non-application and stating which high-risk anchors are set aside and how each clause is re-anchored to its own context. So if we add these together, we've got an 84% of the standard that can work also for the non-high-risk regime. And so we've got only the residual regulatory core, which is around 16% of the clauses, which is tied to high-risk conformity assessment, Annex 4 technical documentation, Article 7 reporting, which of course will have to be declared as not applicable. So what you gain here is actually something that nothing else on the market can offer. So the system-specific focus. So where we have 42001 governing the organization, 18286 disciplines each individual AI system in terms of its requirement, its validation gate, the technical file, and basically together, they form a complete and yet complementary framework, which leads me to my last wrap up. So, we've got two different standards, which can be summarized in these two sentences. So ISO IC says that your organization governs AI responsibly, whereas 18286 says that each of the AI systems in scope is managed for regulatory conformity across its life cycle. So we've got different layers, one integrated system, and the second layer is where the AI Act lives. So one message that I would like to carry out and give to you is, again, the one of complementarity. So these two standards are not competing for the same certificate, but they actually two halves of the same framework. So you have 42001 for the organizational layer, and then you add 18286 processes to generate that system level evidence, and you run them as a single integrated system. So 42001 builds confidence on how you govern AI, and 18286 in a way extend that level of confidence to each individual AI system throughout its life cycle, which is very important. So that's the end for my part, and so I will hand over to my colleague Moemur. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Andrea, for the great insights and about the EN 18286. So now most of you will be pondering that, so if the AI Act applies to you, yeah, what should you do right now? So there are practical steps that you can take. Some of them includes gap assessment. Yeah. So the gap assessment allows you to map against ISO 42001 or EN 18286 requirements. You will likely find you have more building blocks than you think, but also clear gaps that needs addressing. So therefore, it is recommended to start with the gap analysis rather than building from scratch. Then you can potentially proceed to the step 2, which is establishing the AI system inventory. Yeah, because you cannot govern what you cannot see. Yeah, catalog every AI system in your organization, classify its risk level under EU AI Act taxonomy, document its intended purpose, data sources, and deployment contexts. This inventory is basically foundational, and without it, you're actually governing in the dark. And once you have that, you could basically proceed to establishing the life cycle. Yeah, this is where actually the governance becomes operational. So basically, you embed 18286 clause 8 and 9 requirements directly into your engineering workflows, design reviews, deployment approval processes, and monitoring dashboards. Once you have embedded that, yeah, you would be at a point that you realize, yeah, and decide whether an 18286 is right for your organization. If you need an AI organizational framework and structure, at this point you will notice that ISO 42001 is your starting point. And if you already have AIMS or sector QMS, you can establish at this point an integrated management system covering your AI governance, and you can add regulatory compliance layer applying your compliance strategy to each of your AI systems. With that being said, once you have these practical steps, it is also interesting to reconsider that how BSI can assist you. So BSI offers a number of services, and one of its core services is the ISO standards. This includes the standards through the subscription services to clients, and clients can buy a wide range of standards. And with regards to the EN 18286, this will be available immediately after its publication, yeah, shortly. Yeah. And this will be then available through our standards portals. And BSI also offers specialized trainings, yeah, to support your implementation journey, ISO 42001, for example, lead auditor training and other associated trainings related to lead auditor training if you are basically looking into auditing your systems and so on and so forth. Yeah. And the same will be available with regards to the EN 18286 following its publication. Another unique and very helpful service that BSI provides is the pre-certification service to assess your implementation for readiness for certification audits. From our experience with our clients, this has contributed significantly towards the timely preparation of certification audits. And furthermore, and obviously, one of the most important service that BSI provides is the certification assessment service. BSI offers certification assessment against a variety of certification schemes, including ISO 27001, 9001, and 42001. So with regards to the EN 18286, following its publication and release, so this will be, offered either on its own, or it can be integrated. It can be, added as an integrated management system. For example, in combination with ISO 13485 or ISO 42001. With that being said, BSI also provides another service, that is AI performance testing. This offers the specialized service for the AI performance testing. This basically involves independent verification, serves as a confidence booster by assessing bias, robustness, and performance right before you go to the market. So if you think about the today's landscape, trust is a competitive advantage, and here BSI can really assist you and help you in that regard. Having more set into the performance, the AI performance service that BSI provides, all you need basically is to provide us your model data sets and matrix. We then verify the models using your inputs and apply additional evaluation criteria, including common matrix appropriate to support AI workflows based on international AI standards. Several safety, robustness, and bias and performance matrix are derived from a variety of standards. For example, ISO 42013, and 24027 and others, provide a great foundation for establishing the criteria. So and there are other also present the standards. Based on these assessments, we basically generate a comprehensive AI performance report and align with your matrix you provided for covering. This includes data quality, model performance, robustness, bias, and fairness matrix. And our AI service, AI performance service, actually supports image, tabular, and text data sets ranging from 2D, 3D segmentations, object detection to multi-class classification and biometric identification and more. So there's a wide, spectrum of, coverage within this AI performance service. For example, if you're interested in, getting one of the service provided by the BSI, so please get in touch with us to discuss how we can assist you. So with that regard, thank you very much for listening, and it was pleasure in presenting you this new quality management system. So now I would put forward to Andy for more for further proceedings to our webinar today.
Thank you very much, Moma, and I just want to thank Andrea and Hamid as well for their insights and their presentations. So what we'll do is we'll round out the webinar with we've got just over 10 minutes, so we'll get through as many questions as we can, and I can see our audience has been really busy with lots of questions to our presenters. So if you have any more, please stick them in the chat. We will, or in the questions box. We will get through as many as we can in this time. And the first one, I think I'll just give back to you, Moma. So how can an organisation determine whether one of its AI systems has been classified as high risk under the EU AI Act? And I think you're on mute, mate. Same for everybody.
Thanks for letting me know. Basically, there are like few steps that you can take in order to determine whether the AI system is a high risk. That includes the determining whether the system falls within the Annex 1, that is a regulated product, or an Annex 3 use cases. Yeah. Then you have to assess the AI system's intended purpose against the relevant AI Act categories, identify any applicable exclusions and exemptions, and in the end, maintain documented classification decisions as part of the AI governance process. So this is in a nutshell. You can take the steps to determine whether one of your AI system is a high risk.
Thank you. The next one I've got, which I think is probably best suited for Hamid, anyone else wants to step in. If our organisation is already certified under MDR and ISO 13485, do we need to comply with the EU AI Act and EN 18286?
So in case you fall under high-risk AI systems under Annex 1 and Annex 3, where your AI system, medical AI system, requires third-party conformity assessment, then you fall under high-risk AI systems under EU AI Act as well. And basically you need to be certified against EN 18286 to show the assumption of conformity against Article 17, and that's a must, the way to go.
Okay. Another one, again, I think Hamid would be the right person to answer this. Does ISO IEC 42001 requirement for regulatory compliance cover the EU AI Act? So that's the first question. It's a two-parter. The second one, do companies that have already been ISO 42001 certified meet regulatory compliance for the requirements of the EU and UK?
So regarding 42001, and now because ISO 42001 is not harmonized with EU AI Act, and basically the scopes are different, and just EN 1826 is set such that it is harmonized with all with Article 17. But maybe Andrea, if you want, you can add more comments on it.
Yeah, no, definitely. So we know that there is a requirement in 4001 with regards to companies being aware of what their regulatory and legal requirements are, but that is not enough to say that you comply with the requirements of Article 17. So as I said in my presentation, I think 4001 is a good starting point, but in terms of complying with Article 17, if we want to go through the harmonized standards way, you need to also comply with the requirements of 18286, which, as I said, are much more system specific, and so 4001 would not be enough in this case.
Okay, thank you. Next one I've got, again, I'll stick with you, Andrea. I think this one will work. What is the practical difference between implementing ISO 42001 and implementing EN 18286?
Okay, so thank you for the question. This is kind of the core of my presentation. So I picture this as 4001 being a horizontal line. So it established some kind of organization-wide AI management system, for responsible AI governance. So it's organizational, it's much higher level. Whereas 18286, let's think of it as a vertical line, because it established a quality management system that is focused for regulatory conformity of AI system, and of course, specifically, high-risk AI systems. So, as I said, when implementing, you're kind of asking two different questions. So, 4001 is, are we governing AI responsibly? 18286, when you implement it, you need to ask yourself, can we demonstrate, regulatory conformity for the systems that we have put in scope and that we need, to conformity assess against the AI Act.
Okay. And another one for you, Andrea. Can organizations providing AI systems that are not classified as high risk still achieve certification to EN 18286? And if so, would that add value?
Yes. So As I tried to explain in the last part of my presentation, there are some very good principles in 18286 that can be, applied voluntarily for non-high-risk AI systems, but you need to declare, non-applications. So, as if you read the standard, you'll see there are certain clauses that are specifically referencing obligations for high-risk AI system, which would become void in a non-high-risk situation. But still, 18286 provide, some strong framework for evidence of AI quality, governance, accountability, and of course, it can also, in a way, ease the transition if the AI system, which at the moment is not a risk, will become subject to high risk obligations in the future. So it's a delicate discussion to have, but there's certainly lots of good practices in the standard, even for non-high risk providers.
Thank you. Right, I'll put this question to all of the panel. So first one to step forward. I think it covers, it's in between a lot of the different things you talked about. If a company is certified to 9001, is there any approach to simplify the 42001 certification or EN 18286? For example, can a company skip the 42001 certification and adopt only EN 18286?
Do you mind if I jump in, Andy, on this one?
Yeah, go for it.
Well, first of all, we need to remember, that 42001 is not mandatory; it's a voluntary standard. So there is no, there's no obligation for you to, if you are 9001 certified and want to be 18286 certified, there's no obligation for you to pass through, 42001. Of course, as we said, there's a strong overlap between 42K and 18286. On the one hand, clearly, 42001 does give you a really good foundation, but that is definitely not, a legal requirement. So you can have 9001 and integrated with 18286 without passing from 42K.
Okay. Next one, for EN 18286, is there an accreditation scheme available on the standards, and is BSI planning to certify on this standard?
If you want, I can also take this one. Sorry.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So we are actually in the works and working hard for building the accredited scheme for 18286. Of course, at the beginning, the priority is for high risk AI systems, because that's where the standard is applied in full, and then as we said, it will lead to presumption of conformity when it's cited in the official journal of the European Union. And we are also working in understanding how we can offer a service that evaluates compliance and conformity against the standard for the non-high risk regime. But in that case, we are still trying to figure out the proper way to do it, because as we said, some regulatory clauses become empty. So it's a more different subject, but definitely BSI is. I'm personally driving the effort on the build of this certification scheme.
Thank you. Just adding to that, at the end of the webinar, there's a feedback form where if anybody wants to talk to us about EN 18286 or 42001 or our performance, please just tick the box on there and select the one that you're interested in, and we will make sure that we have the right person get back to you on that. So if you've got an interest in it, just ticking the box there is the best way to get it to the right person at BSI, and we'll do everything we can to make sure we get back to you as soon as possible. Just on a similar note, I've got a question. Does the AI performance testing provide certification that can be used to support registrations and submissions in international markets?
So maybe I can add a comment here. So in AI performance testing, we give organization BSI mark of trust, or one detailed report, performance report, and the letter of conformity. So it's not a certification, but we provide these three elements that can be used to show the stakeholders the assessment by a third party.
Okay. Right, we're getting to the end of the hour, so I'll take one more question. I've got one. Is there any discussion for the future in addressing conformity when it comes to the SMS ISO 20001 on the AI topic?
So maybe I can try to give a general answer, and then we can take these away. So, for example, we are trying to, for 2001 specifically, so 18286 is still in very early discussion, even in terms of integration. For 2001, we are we are trying to integrate our certification services with, for example, 27001. So I think what I would like to say is that the effort in trying to potentially integrate conformity against different but linked standards is something that we have clear in our strategy.
Okay. Thank you very much. And as we've reached the hour, I will conclude the webinar and the Q&A. So I just want to say thank you to Hamid, Andrea, and Momer for all of their expertise and the efforts they put into getting the webinar ready. I hope it's been of value to everyone that's joined, and thank you for all of your questions. I'll just share, we've got a couple of QR codes at the end. If you want to access kind of BSI's information about AI standards, training and testing certification, it's bsigroup.com/AI, or you can scan the QR code below. And the QR code in the middle is the one that we've had up all webinar with the resources that we've got. So please help yourself to any of those if they're of use. We have a feedback form after the webinar. Please just give any honest feedback that you have. It just really helps us for planning for future webinars, making sure that we address topics that are of interest to people. And again, I mentioned if you want to talk to any of our team about 42001, about 18286 around performance, please just tick a box there. We'll make sure that one of our team gets back to you as quickly as possible. Also, for anybody watching on demand, if you want to get in touch with our team, we've got an email address there. And if you just kind of start with the subject underneath, it just helps us get to the right team as fast as possible. So we appreciate everybody joining us, and I also really appreciate Hamid, Momer, and Andrea for their expertise and their presentations they're giving today. So thank you for joining wherever you've been in the world. I wish you a great rest of the day, and look forward to speaking to you again soon. Goodbye.
Thank you.